So Donald Trump laid out his plans for the US national debt, and part of it is entirely logical, and I agree with him, but the second part of it is just unfathomable. So Huffington Post writes, Trump says that since interest rates on US debt are very low right now and have been for years, this makes it a great time for the government to borrow money and spend it on public needs, roads, bridges, whatever. If there's something that needs fixing in the United States, borrowing money to fix it is a pretty good idea right now. The boost that this improved infrastructure will give to our economy will be worth it. The economy would grow, boosting tax receipts for the federal government, which would make the new debt easy to manage. So this is a great idea because it would create jobs and it's an investment. So I wholeheartedly agree with this. But getting to the second portion of his US debt plan, things kind of tend to go south. He states, I would borrow knowing that if the economy crashed, you could make a deal, Trump told CNBC. If the US borrowed too much and invested its fresh cash in unproductive products, Trump would tell creditors to accept less than what he'd initially agreed to. Now, I'll remind you that Trump once promised that he would not allow us to default on our national debt. But if you, quote, tell creditors to accept less than what he'd initially agreed to, you're effectively defaulting on our national debt. Now, if we default on our national debt, the consequences would be catastrophic. So the US dollar is a global reserve currency. It is considered the least risky asset in international finance. If investors have to start taking haircuts on this debt, it means that the way money is measured around the world would be thrown into question. All kinds of businesses, both domestic and foreign, would grind to a halt as investors stop to figure out how to sort out the mess. Even in a best-case scenario, the results would be catastrophic. Financial markets eventually sorted things out after the 2008 meltdown, but it still sparked the worst recession in 75 years. A default on US government debt would be worse. Now, odds are that Trump would surround himself by advisors that would hopefully know that you shouldn't ever default on the national debt, but at the same time, by saying that he would tell them to accept less, he's basically telling us that he doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to the debt. Now, he's already shown that he doesn't really understand how things work when it comes to the debt, because he said that he would eliminate the US's $19 trillion in national debt in 8 years. So, you know, the national debt that we've amassed since the country's been founded? 8 years gone under Donald Trump. Now, I'm not going to get into that because that's an entirely different issue, but I'll link you to a Secular Talk video because Kyle Kalinske breaks it down, I think, phenomenally. And he rips Trump's ass apart. So I'll just link you to that, and it'll tell you why Donald Trump doesn't understand what the debt is. But my only logical response to that is this.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
So the conclusion is that if you didn't already know that Donald Trump is a madman, well, you're never going to know, because this illustrates that he is willing to take chances that could lead to catastrophic worldwide consequences that he just doesn't fully understand. And that's scary. Again, he initially promised that he wouldn't do something so crazy and careless. Now he's thinking, maybe, we'll see. It depends on how the economy's going. So it's really frustrating because in one instance, Trump will say something logical. He'll criticize Hillary Clinton on her foreign policy. And in another instance, he will threaten to default on the national debt, which, again, I don't think that you can really articulate the consequences of this. There is very few economists that I think you'll find that will say that it's okay for us to default on our national debt. So for us to even have to spell this out is problematic. So if you're a Trump supporter and you like him for other reasons, then you better be damn sure that you put pressure on your candidate to never default on national debt. Because if you think the economy is bad now, if you think things are bad, then you haven't seen anything. Because as was stated in the Huffington Post article, it would be worse than the 2008 recession. Now, again, you could find better articles on it. You could find more better analyses about this. But just know that it's a consensus that this would be very, very bad. So this is honestly scary that he's so close to the presidency and he would default on our national debt. It's just crazy.